Are you experiencing back pain that you can't get rid of? Getting migraines, vertigo, having trouble sleeping, and/or brain fog? Do you feel like your medical doctor doesn't understand your condition? Blair Chiropractic might be the solution you've been looking for. If you've ever been skeptical about this, the two doctors you're about to listen to were even more skeptical than you were when they looked into chiropractic work. But fear not. Get expert guidance from the blonde and the bald, Doctors Beth Bagley and Frederick Scherger. These two doctors have extensive experience beyond the healthcare realm and bringing unique vision and healing to their patients. What do you have when you get a biological analyst and an engineer together? Find out right here on another episode of The Blonde and the Bald. Welcome your hosts, Doctors Bagley and Scherger.
Good evening, Dr. Bagley. How are you this fine day?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a good week. For those who are keeping track at home, we are on the Valentine's Day week, and obviously this is coming out, I think, March.
And this is number what?
49.
49, which means next week we're going to have a big bonanza. It's going to be amazing. We don't even know what we're going to talk about next week, but it's going to be great because we are ready.
We'll even plan for it and have some sort of extra special something.
Yeah.
For the big
Last week we had a really good talk with Philip, and that was amazing.
Yep.
That opened my eyes to a couple things I didn't know. And I actually have already talked to another patient about what Philip was going through and what he's doing on top of his upper cervical care, which is really cool. But yeah, I've had a lot of new patients this week with some interesting symptoms.
Good.
And there's some things that I think we could go over there. How has your week been?
That's been good and very similar, not necessarily different symptoms, but certainly some cases that are that they stand out. So I had a really tell you. Let me start with this. So this case that came in today was a trigeminal neuralgia case, and I've spoken on these in the past, and I personally have had I can't say I've had a trigeminal neuralgia case. No, I can't. I had one that didn't turn out as well as I would like. And I don't know what else was going on that got her down that rabbit hole. But generally speaking, trigeminal neuralgia cases do great. Except for she's got a 3-hour drive to get here. She's over in Indiana. So I'm like racking my brain. How can we make this easier for her? Because I've got some people from that area that she's in. Driving over sometimes to the office, sometimes over to my Arthur office to save an hour. So I'm calling up this doc, Dr. Garola, Tim Garola, up in LaPorte, Indiana. And he was a Gonstead full spine practitioner. For those of you who are unfamiliar with all the chiropractic techniques, Gonstead is one of the more popular techniques that are out there. And it is, it's generally taught at most of the chiropractic schools to some degree or other. There's advanced work that's involved to really get good at it, but it's a full spine technique, and he'd been doing that for I think 20 or 30 years. When I ran into him at Palmer while his son was at school, who's like, Dad, you got to learn this Blair work. And sure enough, Dad's doing the Blair work now. Tim's comment was, well, my case fee isn't as high as it used to be because I don't need as many visits as I used to. So, he was happy about that, but he made the funny comment as we were chatting tonight that if it's a new patient who's never been to chiropractic before, they're like, oh yeah, you did the thing, it got better, but I think it was going to get better all, on its own. Whereas if someone's been to a chiropractor before, who's, either maybe another upper cervical doctor or even, just a regular chiropractor, the funny thing is they're like, oh, wow, this is a very different, and
Absolutely.
I feel a ton better. There's one more category that falls into this, into that kind of those views that people have. And it's this case that came in to see me for trigeminal neuralgia. because she has been through the ringer of the medical profession trying to find anything to give her some relief. And sure enough, we get her head on straight, and she, and I just adjusted her today, so we don't know how well she's
I don't
gonna
know.
do.
Yeah.
But she's like, this feels a whole lot different.
Different. Yeah.
And she's, and again, it is the experience of the patient knowing how bad it can get. And I don't want people to get to that point. But unfortunately, they find us and they're like, well, you tickled behind my ear a little bit. The headpiece dropped. I don't know if you did a whole lot. Not understanding the amount of work that we've put into making it look super easy.
It does. It does. And it feels easy too. Like the Blair adjustment is so gentle.
Yes.
Most of the time. Sometimes it hurts a little bit because something is tender, but it's not like a traditional chiropractic adjustment, or God forbid, one of those adjustments you see on TikTok where they're like yanking people's heads. But like, it's so profound patient I had this week, he came in earlier this week for his CT scan and his exam, and just the nicest guy, but he's been suffering for 3 years. He had 3 different he played hockey his whole life, so there's that, but then he had 3 different head injuries in a short amount of span, where he hit his head like on hard surfaces at work and fell back and hit it like 3 different times, hit his head. And then his body started doing weird stuff. And one of the things he just started getting is these just terrible chronic headaches. And he just felt that pressure all the time. And he did get a CT scan, and they found the hydrocephalus, the brain was
normal pressure.
Yeah, there was
hydrocephalus.
Yes, and so then they did a puncture to see if he had any pressure in his lumbar spine. No, there's no extra pressure. And I was like, well, that's because the pressure's there.
Yeah.
and not down there.
Yeah, and for folks who are listening we don't have a picture of normal pressure hydrocephalus. What that is a situation where the cerebrospinal fluid is not in a child. Hydrocephalus is a uncommon finding, but it does happen more frequently because the skull is not connected and not more or less one piece. It's not one piece, but it's more or less one piece. So the head will actually blow up like a balloon, and they try to shunt that off. In normal pressure hydrocephalus, you can have, maybe it's still within the normal range, but it's enough that it's actually starting to cause pressure into the soft tissue, because fluids are non-compressible, which means you can't squish them down. And they've got to go somewhere. They can't go into the bone and cause that to expand. So it goes into the soft tissue of the brain and causes all sorts of problems. So, and oftentimes there's a stop because the upper cervical is out of place, pulling down on the spinal cord and the brainstem, and ultimately the cerebellar tonsils that just cause that to stop up and work.
And so this guy is a smart guy. So he starts doing the research and looking and seeing different things. And he does come across upper cervical. I think he came across some of Dr. Scott Rose's work.
Sure.
And Scott, right? Is his first name? Yeah. And so then lives in St. Louis, so found me, which I'm super, super grateful, because he's just a sweet guy. And so today he got his first adjustment. And he has for doctors listening to this, he's got a double PI. So his atlas bone, so if you're looking at me from the side, my atlas bone should be shifted slightly up like this. So it should be at an angle that's towards my nose. And for his, when I looked at his atlas, it was just this flat. And so when I looked at his different angles and everything, we could see on the protractor views that he's got posterior misalignment on both sides, which is not super common, but it's more common than I see it. Because we see so many neurologically compromised people, we see it more than I think on like an average population would ever see.
Sure.
And so when I told him, I was like, hey, this is a pretty compromised position for this Atlas bone. It's putting pressure where it shouldn't be pushing. And it's like, it makes sense that things are as bad as they were. And he goes, it makes sense to me too. And his wife didn't come, but she was hearing from him what I had said in the first day. And she was so excited. She's like, I just want my husband back. So anyway, I don't know how the whole case is going to go, and I'll keep you guys updated as we go. And I'm going to guess he's going to probably want to come on the podcast because he's so funny. And he's such a nice guy. But he, as he got, I did 2 adjustments on him today, but the second one was the PI adjustment. And turn my phone on silent. Sorry, guys. He felt weird afterwards. And I was like, that's good. He felt warm.
Yeah.
He felt like this. And I was like, I think it's your brain draining.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know for sure if that is, but I have had people had that sensation where they're just like draining.
Yeah.
And that pressure starting to relieve. Now, he didn't feel like perfect as he was leaving or anything like that. And I wasn't expecting that. But all of those changes that he was feeling as he was resting, I was so excited about, because it's not how we walked in. Right. And all we did was move this tiny little 2-ounce bone, just a tiny bit, just.
Yep.
And I think it's incredible what we do. When we were, and my team meeting today, we were talking about, capacity blocks, like what's blocking the office from getting bigger. Right. We discuss that maybe quarterly and just talk about, what can we change? Like one of the things is we want to remodel a room in the back where my x-ray machine used to be. But one of the things is questions is like, where are we? Do we have sound philosophy? And not a lot of healthcare practitioners talk about philosophy, sure. But I think chiropractors do more than a physical therapist or something. But the philosophy of chiropractic, the whole above, down, inside out thing. So I think if anything, and I know we're talking about the intelligence of our body, but right. Like what's profound about that is where I was comparing what this guy is even feeling. And it's sort of like the brain, even the cerebral spinal fluid kind of above, down. And the flow of information, I know there's 2-way communication, all that stuff, but it's pretty incredible to like watch someone change like that. And I feel so blessed that we get to do that every day, Frederick.
Well, yeah, exactly. And this is a really good point, because most people don't really see, they know chiropractic is doing something different than a medical doctor, mm-hmm. And they don't understand that medicine has a philosophy. The medical philosophy believes that something is innately or is inherently wrong, mm-hmm. that they have to figure out they either have to give you a pill, some sort of medicine, to cause that problem to get better, or to make it turn on more or make it turn off less, mm-hmm. or take out something. Something has broken down and died, mm-hmm. and that's where surgeries come in place. And sometimes there's valid reasons to do that.
Absolutely.
But oftentimes, and I make this joke, there are times when the orthopedic surgeon really wants a new boat. And it's not even the orthopedic surgeon that wants a new boat. It is the manager over the orthopedic surgeon unit that says, well, we need to do this many surgeries because I want my new boat. And I'm not saying any one particular doc doesn't deserve a new boat. I mean, some of them really do.
Absolutely.
But sometimes, and this is the problem with anything that if you are selling a product, you are selling a product or a service, you look at every nail. If everything looks like a nail, you're going to use a hammer every time. Mm-hmm. And the difference between that philosophy of doing a thing, and chiropractic can be just as guilty of this, because if I look at it and say, I
absolutely we can
this many bones to make this kind of money to buy my boat. Don't buy.
Or your new kettlebell.
A new kettle. Well, honestly, I buy all my kettlebells from all my teaching. That is how I do buy my kettlebells, and thankfully I don't need any new ones for a good. Well, it's going to be at least a year, but the difference between the philosophies in chiropractic's focused on how does the body heal? What drives the body's healing? And our philosophy really says that everything comes from above down, inside out, and at a very basic level, or a very superficial level, I should say. But in simplest terms, the body heals itself. We understand that the body is a self-healing organism as long as we're alive. And what is the thing that is interfering with our body's ability to function and heal? And we find that it's the nervous system that is not functioning the way it's supposed to, because something is out of place in the upper neck that is driving that problem, that is preventing the person from healing. So this gets into the other story that I wanted to share about a new patient who's coming in soon. She went to see a newly graduated doc. I won't say what city she's practicing in. Unfortunately, I will say she graduated from my alma mater, Palmer College. And I understand, not every doctor out of my class were certainly not even upper cervical doctors, or even bought into the philosophy that chiropractic, facilitates your body's ability to heal and benefits your nervous system. That is an unfortunate problem in the profession, in the education system, that there's enough people, both teaching and people who are trying to accredit doctors, that would rather see all this philosophy go away and just become a part of the medical system and give out drugs and surgery. Quite honestly, you and I would make a ton more money. And knowing some of the procedures that I would do, sort of like what Philip is going through, if I decided I wanted to have a medical degree and go and off and do those procedures and do those injections, hands down, I'd be all about it. Unfortunately, that's not what I want. So I want to get people's heads on straight so that they can go out and do everything they're supposed to be doing. So in this case, to this doctor or this patient that calls me up, and she is freaked out. I don't know. I have very little information about her other than she's got some back pain and some other problems. And they did take an X-ray, which I applaud.
I mean, it's not that we don't see that as much anymore, but yes, I'm glad they did.
Yeah. And I think she's doing a torque release technique from what I saw on her website.
That can be good. There's some aspect of testing and addressing misalignments.
Right. And I don't know if I still have it up. I might still have the page up. Yeah, I do. There's I'm just going to go through some of the stuff that I'm seeing here that just based upon what she was telling me. I mean, this doc was a radiology intern, and I don't know this doc at all. So, and I'm not saying that the patient was understood everything the doctor was trying to get across, but certainly the patient was freaked out, and the doctor told her this, that, and the other. But I'm looking at it, and she was part of the pre-med club for a couple of years, and all these other things that I'm looking at, I'm just like,
you mean an undergrad she was part of pre-med club?
Well, it looked like, yeah, exactly.
Okay. So it was like, I probably was part of the pre-med club in undergrad too.
Well, some people know that they're going to do that kind of stuff. But to my point is the way that they told her, that they're like, hey, I can't say every symptom's going to get better. We can't say that. But this was a situation where the doctor told her, and I'm going to take her, the patient's word for this, that the doctor told her this will never get better, like a numbness or tingling along the legs, that's never going to get better. And I'm like,
what?
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible it might never get better, but dude, we see that get better all the time. Yeah. I see that get better in the afternoon.
And this young lady strikes me as a young lady. She doesn't strike me as somebody who's in her 60s or 70s who situationally the damage has been done. This is where drugs and surgery sometimes comes in.
Sometimes people need it.
Out. Yeah.
Sometimes it's too far gone.
Right.
There's been too much damage.
But it hurts when then again, this is one of those situations like Dr. Girola was talking about, where hopefully this is going to be the patient comes in, we go through all the history. I'm like, all right, here's what we're going to do. Here's what it's going to cost. Because, that's the other part of it. She doesn't want to start something that's not going to get her better. And I'm 100%
Absolutely.
on board with that.
Yep.
But she's like freaking out. And I'm like, I got to take a look at stuff. Cause it's something about her experience just scared the heck out of me, but yet I've heard that from other patients before, and I'm just like, all right, maybe this doc is the best doc, and she just explained it wrong, and the patient didn't understand because white coat freaking,
Yeah, you can get freaked out by
yeah,
and you can mishear things,
right.
But like I feel like if I would say something to a patient that freaked them out and then they went to a different doctor that happened to know me or didn't even know me,
right.
I almost wish somebody would call me and say, hey, I just want to let you know, I've got a patient here that heard that you said this and I want to know what that meant. And I'll be like, I didn't say that, or whatever it is.
Right. And there's that too. There is that.
Because
but this, we have to get back to the question of, how do we communicate to the patients as best as we can and keeping it stupid simple? Or is it simple stupid? I don't know.
Also,
sometimes I'm the one who's stupid. So
that's true. And I am too sometimes, especially on Thursday nights, which is right now.
We are getting to that point.
Yeah. So the other part of that is, this stuff is serious though. Subluxation, misalignment, whatever you want to call it, is serious. When this happens, your body is moving towards destruction rather than moving towards healing. So I get telling people that, you have this and this and this going on, and that is serious. But to take away someone's hope that they could get better, knowing that we are self-healing and are miraculously made and can heal, our bodies can heal, but our job is to help stuck people get unstuck.
Yes. Simply.
And if you say you could get unstuck, but you're never going to get better, like what the heck? What? It doesn't really, first, I don't even think a medical doctor would say that, because it's taking away someone's hope.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give false hope, but man, something like numbness and tingling, typically we can see big changes in that in a short amount of time, and permanent changes in that.
Yeah. And as she was explaining it to me, because she didn't understand some of what was going on, and she's, the doctor did tell her, don't go to somebody who's just going to, turn you on your side and roll you, because that's going to be a problem. And I'm like, yep, don't do that.
So was this a chiropractor that told her that?
This was a chiropractor.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure
this was an actual chiropractor. But again, my concern is, what else are they doing? And this is the other thing that people should be worried about. I mean, we've got some quote unquote influencer docs in the Blair work, and Dr. Drew Hall and Dr. Kevin Pecca are fantastic at doing marketing, because that's what they love, making TikTok videos. Yeah. I hate that they love making TikTok videos. I love that they make videos. I hate that it's TikTok.
Me too, but I go on. I try not to consume TikTok. I do make TikTok. So y'all can find me at Dr. Beth Bagley I'm going to tell you what it is, but I don't remember.
Yeah. Anyways, but to the point, there are, you've got doctors, and if you watch any of Drew Hall's TikToks, Kevin's are better, in my opinion. Drew's are good, but they are very,
it's a lot of the same stuff over and over. It's like, if you're suffering from blah blah blah. Yeah. And honestly, he gets a lot of views on that stuff. And between Drew and Kevin Pecca, I have had patients that have started care because they saw one of their TikToks. Right. But I appreciate that.
I do, and I'm not saying. And Kevin's look a little bit more nice.
Oh
Drew's,
yeah, his
Drew's are very raw. That's what I'm looking
but
for.
but the thing about TikTok is people don't necessarily need it to look nice. They
Right.
just need it to be real.
Right.
They need somebody to actually like it doesn't have to be full on production.
Right. But this other doc that I'm looking at their website, and it really feels like they're trying to be an influencer more than they're trying to be a doctor. At the end of the day, Doctors Drew and Kevin are trying to be clinicians that also put out videos, opposed to someone who's trying to be an influencer.
Exactly. They never want to not be a doctor. They always want to be a doctor.
Right. And this is the same for us. I mean, we would rather be a doctor all day long. I mean, I love doing this and having this conversation with you, but I would rather just have everybody else talk about me. So that
I'd rather people just come and then I don't have to market at all. I don't want to. I don't love marketing. I don't hate marketing, but I don't love it. I love seeing people's lives change behind that door over there.
Exactly.
But to see people's lives change, I have to market.
Yes,
and it's a business.
We've got it. Exactly. And that's part of what we're doing here. And we're just getting the word out there so we can share what's going on. And again, I think this young lady that's coming in, once, we take a look at her images, I'll be like, oh yeah, this is, here are the things that I worry about that, if I was your age, these are the big problems. This one here, sometimes we have sunk costs, and sometimes things in our body are sunk costs. And then we just, we have to work around that. I've got another patient who, he didn't have any of the jabby jabs, but he still had the heart problems associated with it. So
it could have just been from the COVID.
Yes, and well, he had COVID about 3 times.
Really?
So he has, he's got all these health issues.
Does he have a weakened immune system? I mean, before that?
Not other than the fact that there was some beverages that he likes and cigars. He was actually not bad, but there was a lot of stress work-wise. But to the point, it's like he knows now, because he had several stents put in. There are certain medications you have to take to maintain the patency of those stents so that blood will flow. My dad still regrets getting the one stent put in. Apparently they didn't need to do it, but they highly recommended the stent in the Widowmaker that he had that was 90% blocked, or maybe 70, whatever it was a big blockage. But the upside was, and the reason he didn't have a whole lot of heart damage was because the heart had already made new vessels around the blockage. So it never really it didn't need the stent. And he's, Dad's like, yeah, I wish they hadn't done it, but they did it. So, I'm not going to, fret over it. And there's just some things that you got to maintain. Otherwise that thing will block up, which is the unfortunate side effect of getting a stent is the body says, I don't like this. This shouldn't be here. Let's get rid of it. But it's keeping blood flowing. So it's that double-edged.
So does the body like attack it like with the immune system?
Yeah. Okay. The immune system will come in and say, hey, this is, it's coated. The coating on the outside of it, if I'm not mistaken, prevents it not from being necessarily rejected by the body as much as keeps it from, getting stuff,
like
clotting on it and things like that. But, that only lasts for so long. I mean, anything in the body that isn't of the body, and even stuff of the body, will get turned over. So, the body just says, hey, I don't like this, and we're going to change this and change this and change this. So, so it's, that's why there is a medication to, sort of deal with the stent. But, this young man, he's been a patient for a couple of years, and he's been under upper cervical care for a good long time as well. He's like, this is what, I'm not happy about what happened, with the heart attack and everything else, but this is where I am. And this is, this is the bare minimum that I have to do to move forward. And, he's loving cardio rehab. Honestly, I think cardio rehab is one of the best things that I have ever seen the medical profession figure out.
I honestly I wish that every person that had that it was eligible for cardiac rehab could continue it for
Yes.
the rest of their lives, because the changes I see in my patients that have had to go through cardiac rehab were so profound. But then it's like you're rehabbed, and I'm like, the stuff they're doing it, because first of all, people are afraid that they're going to have another stroke or a heart attack while they're exercising. So this puts them in a place where they're in a safe place, that if something was to happen, there are people there that can help. But it also, I wish, because these people, they go through those changes, and then most of them don't keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them don't continue that path. Most of them just go back like, oh, I'm better. It's like, you can't stop exercising.
No.
But many of them are still afraid to go to just a gym, or even just go for a walk, because they're fearful that something bad could happen, when really that's the opposite.
Exactly. And they need to be out and being active and physically doing things. And what was great, because my dad's heart attack was, what was that, 14 or 15? No, it was even longer than that. It was 2008 or 9. But he kept on doing the rehab because they offered it, and they said, hey, you can keep on coming in
Really?
on the regular. And then afterwards, so they had it at the hospital. Mm-hmm. And then after there was a core group that was there all the time. And that core group would come in, they would do some yoga, they would do some other activities at the hospital. And then afterwards, they'd all sit down and have coffee. Mm-hmm. Well, when COVID happened, all of that got shut down.
Yep, of course it did.
So, and I was listening to something recently talking about how we have lost our socializing since COVID. So COVID put so much fear into people that we can't have interactions with others that we aren't having. And that is a whole other, man, that's a psychological rabbit hole that I don't even want to go down, because I know it. It's when you don't have, we are not islands by any means, and we are certainly not, we are social creatures that need to connect. This is why, if nothing else, why religions have been around in various forms throughout the year, just to have social interactions. Mm-hmm. And something happened during COVID that put so much fear in people, and it's not the fear of God.
It really wasn't the fear of God.
It really wasn't. But they are not interacting socially like we should, which again, that's a whole other thing. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but just getting out, going to a gym, keeping active. Heck, my dad's got a 2-hour routine that he does at least 3 days a week.
That's awesome.
At the local gym. So
that's incredible.
Keeping him strong.
So some people do continue.
Some people do, but
he's the exception. He is the exception. So many people don't.
Yeah, because I think 2 or 3 days a week it's yoga, and then the other days he's finally getting into strength training.
I love it.
I haven't gotten him to do kettlebells yet, but he's doing sled pulls. He's doing
kettlebells.
He's doing sled pulls with a the one guy's Dad's a former judge, so he's a lot of those guys are former
attorneys and prosecutors.
No, they're the cops. The local
well, that's
police.
fun.
So the one guy, and I know his brother better than I know him, but I know him enough to know that they both had big egos. So they were going back and forth putting, all right, I did 200 on the sled. And then, they put that on the chalkboard, and then, Dad would come over and he said, all right, I did 225. I did 250. And then, it's like, all right, I did 250. Then I did 275 for 3 laps. And I think they got up to 300, maybe even 325.
Oh my gosh.
Well, which isn't a lot when
for me, I've not ever pulled that on a sled,
right.
Or
but
pushed.
But they got to that point. And,
were they pushing the sled, or were they pulling it with a
I
rope?
think they were pulling it.
So were they doing that one where they pull like that?
No. I think they had something around their waist.
So they were walking with it. So
Yeah.
It was using like their legs.
Right,
Okay.
right,
I might
right.
be able to do
Right,
that.
and you could do it pushing as well. But in any case, I think Dad got up to the 303. He beat the police officer's record, and they both sort of said, "Yeah, all right, we have proven that we are both stupid." And I told Dad, well, just back it down to 275 and start walking it backwards. So, but in any case.
Yeah, but I love that he, had a scary thing happen to him.
Yeah.
And then he made some changes. Now, if we could just convince people to make the changes before the scary thing happens.
Well, and you're spot on there, because how many I remember going through school, and I was not an active kid going through school. I was the pudgy kid who I wish had kettlebells, because if someone said, "Hey, do this and you'll be strong," and I'm like, I like that, because I can race against myself, or even just having gotten into a weight room, that would have been good. But just having something physical, and growing up, there was the big Arnold Schwarzenegger national fitness thing. And now I don't even know that.
Presidential fitness.
Yes. I don't think that stuff exists anymore.
I don't know. Look it up while you're talking.
Yeah. But being physically active, I mean, we're seeing kids who are less and less physically active. Even my buddy's son, while he plays hockey a lot, given nothing else to do, he will spend more time sitting in front of a TV playing Minecraft or whatever the new fad game is, more than anything else. And as you're looking that up, I'm going to bet that the presidential fitness test, when you and I were going through school, is considerably less than what it was back in the Kennedy years, because I seem to recall that one involved a lot of pull-ups, a lot of there was some sort of ring thing that you would do overhead, and there was a rope pull where you would pull, you'd climb a rope, 2 stories almost. I've looked at the old gyms where they would have those, and quite honestly, I mean, I'm not going to say that pulling yourself up on a rope is a mandatory thing, but that's a lot of upper body strength. I mean,
that
is
like
stupid strong.
It ended in 2013.
Did it?
Yeah.
Well, that's a shame.
It was replaced by something else. But yeah, I agree that it started off probably way harder. It's just like everybody gets a trophy.
Yeah.
At this point. And I think that's probably why it ended, because I do remember being a kid in gym class, and I am not a super athletic person. Back then I couldn't even touch my toes. I can now, because you find out that you can actually improve on flexibility when you work on it. Nobody ever even explained that to me as a kid, is that you can like when I was playing basketball, nobody was like, hey, you could actually do these exercises and improve your vertical. No one told me that. I just thought, I don't have a good vertical. I might be 6'2", but I don't have a good vertical. And now I'm like, I could have had. Nobody explained that to me as a kid. So I never knew when I did the sit and reach. Remember that sit and reach where you just sit?
Oh yeah, I hated that thing.
I couldn't touch my toes worth crap, but I could do it now.
Right.
And because I realized that you can improve upon flexibility, you can improve upon your fitness.
And a lot of the rehab that I'm teaching patients now, after they've been in care for a little bit, is all about regaining basically flexibility in the legs, in the hips. I was chatting with a patient who was having a lot of hamstring pain recently. Something was cramping up, and sure enough, she was out of adjustment. But I'm like, all right, so here's what we're I'm showing her a hip hinge and saying, all right, add some weight to this. It's actually the reverse deadlift form that I'm recommending. So if you want to go find some reverse deadlift forms, I think Athlean X just did a wonderful video talking about it. And all you're doing is loading up you're trying to load up and stretch the hamstrings and the quads in this process. But anytime I'm over this was over in my Arthur office, which has a pretty, it's a concrete slab that I'm standing on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always tight over there. I went to touch my toes as a demonstration. I could touch the floor, and I was shocked because, I had a workout that morning and everything else, but I worked, but I'm constantly doing flexibility stuff. About 5 days a week, I'm good at that. 7 if I had the extra time. But some things you have to do daily to maintain and function the way you're supposed to.
Yes.
Like the one young man who needs to take his medications. He's, his wife, I think his wife's certainly in the healthcare. I don't know if she was a full-on nurse or where she's at in that, but she's like, here's your meds, and don't say no. And he's like, I don't say no. I do my rehab at least 5 days a week. Sometimes I'm doing the rehab here in the office, showing people so that I can get my minutes in for the day.
Absolutely. You're not wrong. Like, it's amazing. Like, I will oftentimes show patients with their arms back. I call it the wall angels. Cause that's like strengthening between the shoulder blades and turning some muscles on that get turned off when you're sitting on your butt in front of a computer screen all day.
Exactly.
And people don't realize that that's a trauma in itself, is the amount of sitting that so many people have to. I fortunately, you fortunately, we do not. Like, this is the first time I've sat. I sat for 20 minutes to eat lunch today, and this is the second time I've sat today.
Well, good.
So, and I'm blessed. Like, I am so excited that I get to stand all day and bend and twist and move, because in the long run of my body, it's so good for me. So I'm not complaining at all. But man, if I have, like, when we're in like seminars, like when we're at the Blair conference, it kills me to sit that long. I don't even, my body doesn't even understand what that is.
Yep.
And I get all antsy, and so I don't know how people do it, but I do know that you can do things daily to help eliminate that stress on your body, which some of the rehab things you're talking about, wall angels, there's that thing called the Brugger stretch. You guys can look all that up, or hey, you know what? You can comment or shoot us an email, and we will send you I'll send you all the stretches that we do.
Yep.
But the sitting, that's rough. That's really rough on people. It's a trauma. It's a trauma in itself. And it's like a repetitive trauma rather than like a car accident, which is a instant trauma. This is a repetitive trauma where you're doing the same thing over and over. Like if you grabbed your phone and you held it with your shoulder, which don't do that. Yeah, you could do it for like a minute or two, but like if you're doing it for a minute or two, let me tell you, every time you grab your phone, you're doing it. How you do one thing is how you do everything.
Right. And, I was just right before we started this tonight, I'm watching a video, the sort of godfather of kettlebell stuff, Pavel Tsatsouline, has been doing some research. And one of the things that they found that helps improve cardiac performance is doing effectively a body weight lunge uphill.
Okay.
So you're not actually doing a full lunge as much as you are just taking long strides on a hill, climbing up the hill multiple times, and apparently that actually increases your cardiac output volume while you're doing it, so that way you've got a stronger, more robust heart down the line. But if you're sitting all the time, the heart will not have the demand on it, and consequently, they're basically saying sitting is the new smoking.
Agreed.
And
it is.
It's pretty, at least when people were smoking all the time,
they at least got up and went outside.
They were walking around. They were going outside. I had one buddy who said, "Hey, let's go play some basketball." He's like, "Yeah, hold on a second. I got to light up first." So he's playing basketball with a cigarette.
At least he's moving.
He was moving, and I'm just like, and I sit back.
You're probably getting a little vitamin D.
Well,
like vitamin D level. You got your sun hitting your face while you're smoking your cigarette. You know what? We should
this
start
was at
smoking.
night, but yes, I get it.
No, but like you're not wrong. And
Who is
The
it?
thing
John
about
Daly, who does all the golfing with a cigarette and a whiskey, and he just pummels everybody else.
my friend Ginger, who used to smoke, she was talking about what she misses about smoking. And one of them was getting up and getting outside once every hour or two.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think we should institute movement breaks or sunshine breaks where it might only be 5 minutes, but getting up away from your desk and like going outside for 5 minutes. Like, it, first of all, I think it'd make your brain better, but second of all,
absolutely.
Your body suffers in these positions in front of a computer screen all day. And especially now with people mostly where a lot of people still working from home. And I don't have a problem with it. I think it's amazing for lots of people. And it's a resurgence in like small towns because you can live in a small town now and have a amazing job and not have to leave your room. But then you can also shop and keep these small towns going because I love small towns.
Yep.
So
I think
one more thing is the implementation of that is not anything that you can't do by just literally setting a phone alarm. Like all you have to do is set an alarm for 90 minutes and it beeps at you. And the next thing you do when you're done with that email, when you're done with that meeting is you get up and you walk away from your computer for 5 minutes.
Yeah. And, you know, I think they do this it's either Japan or South Korea, where the screen, you know, they'll be sitting at a computer screen at their desk, and all of a sudden there's a mandatory, it's going to shut off, and there's nothing you can do for 5 minutes. You've got to get up 5 or 10 minutes or whatever it is, go for a walk, you know, before the computer will let you back in.
Yeah.
And it improves productivity. Now there's a whole Pomodoro, something like that. I can't remember what the name of the theory was, that you take these frequent breaks every so many minutes of working. And I think there's something to it. As again, you get up, you go for a walk, you go do things. Don't go play on Instagram or TikTok.
No, don't take your phone with you.
Yeah, just get away from things. But this actually goes to, you know, the same patient I was talking about earlier with the heart condition. He has improved his mindfulness of being in the moment. And the more that he is in the moment, the more calm he has been.
Okay.
And I don't remember if it was he said it was a Sikh doctor, but I can't remember what the doctor said exactly. It was really profound, but it was, again, about living in the moment and not living for the next moment. For me, I learned that lesson from when I was doing my Kung Fu, when we would count out, you know, Sifu would count out in Chinese the next motion that we were going to do, or the next rep, not to anticipate the rep and just wait for the count and then go, because that is being in the moment. Meditation for me was like that, because I could sit for 20 minutes and sometimes I wanted to sit for 30. But if I had 20 minutes, I set the timer for 20 minutes, knowing that I could always go longer, but I can't go shorter because I've already allocated that time. And I can relax and say, all right, I'm just going to be here. I'm going to try to calm my mind. I'm going to, you know, just be aware of what is going around in my breath. And then that alarm will go off. I said, I've got this 20 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 or whatever I set the timer for, to do nothing more than breathe. And that just helps clean up my head, and I'm more aware. And I'm more in the moment. I need to do it more. I don't do it as much as I'd like to. So
me too. That's the time management. And I honestly have sucked at time management this last week. I've just been real, I mean, in a good way, I'm busy and I love that. And I love that I have patience and all the things, but like being a business owner and a doctor and a mentor and oh, I told my team today, I apologized to them during the meeting. I was like, I have not been a good leader. And they were all like, you're fine. You know, they're all trying to be nice. And I was like, I appreciate you guys, but I know I'm not living up to my potential. And one of the things I need to do is that exactly what you talked about. I need to set aside time every day to breathe, meditate, pray. And then I also need to set aside like 2 hours a week that I just do management because that's business, like just the business end of things. Because what's happening is I'm trying to do it in between things and I get called. I need to like, my door is closed. It's a day where I'm not seeing patients or time I'm not seeing patients, and I need no one to bother me for an hour or two. So I can actually get that stuff done because I have list after list of lists, and I'm like, oh my gosh. But time management is definitely, I'm going to let you guys know next week because I'm going to be better about it this coming week.
Yep.
And you know what, I'm going to do 10 minutes because I think that's all my brain can take. Sorry, I just had a back spasm. As I was standing here, and you hear me talk weird. I've been bent over all day adjusting patients, and I did get adjusted today, so everyone calm down. I'll be fine. Good. It just needs, my body's working some stuff out. But like, I am going to do a better job, and I'm going to set 10-minute times where I breathe, pray, and take that time just for myself. I might turn on music because I'm going to be honest, me being alone with my thoughts for 10 minutes is scary to me at this point in time because I don't know where my brain's going to go.
Yeah, well, that's half the fun of just being quiet and in the moment. It's, you get to find out where your brain's going and you're like, no, come back over here. Oh, hey, butterfly. No,
exactly. I am so distractible.
Well, but this is the biggest problem. And I think this is the bigger problem that we have as a society right now is we have so many
distractions.
Well, not just distractions. We have so many literal dopamine hits throughout our day that honestly, I challenge everybody listening to this to think about after you're done listening to this, think about the last Instagram post you had from a friend. I've got about 3 or 5 friends who regularly send me posts. Some of them are political, some of them are funny, some of them stick with me, but not most of them. And and even when you're watching with something like that, it's a minute, but can you be mindful of it to say, hey, this was worthwhile? Some things are, they're a funny joke. You need to learn how to tell that joke. So take a moment. When I was learning jokes, and no offense, Dr. Bagley, but I was learning blonde jokes because they're funny. So are the brunette and the redhead ones. So are the bald ones. Because they're jokes. This
is fake, so it's okay.
Exactly. But in any case, I made it a point to, my uncle gave me this sheet of jokes, and I read through them multiple times, and then I had to learn how to speak them because I was not a good speaker back in high school when he gave me this list of jokes. So even now, if I've got, if I'm going to practice a speech, there's some stuff that I can do that is extemporaneous, like, quite honestly, having a conversation like this. But there's a lot of stuff you have to practice. And if you see something good on Instagram, especially something that is uplifting, take a moment and repeat it a couple of times. My favorite, I can't quote it word for word, but "Man in the Arena" comes to mind regularly, and that was a Theodore Roosevelt speech. I don't know if that was a speech that he gave as he was bleeding after having been shot by somebody. But,
oh my gosh, yes. That's a great story.
It is a great story. But that's a different. That's for a different podcast, and it's fun stuff. But any case, I challenge people to be more in the moment, be aware of your surroundings, and get your head on straight.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know what I'm going to do right now, and I challenge everyone listening to do the same thing. pick a time on your phone, like on your phone, to set a timer that says breathe or pray or meditate, and set a timer and make it go off every day, like 8 p.m. or whatever time that you know that you're done eating and the kids are done, all the things are out of your, and yeah, you might be sitting there going through Instagram or doing something. And that when that goes off, you're like, okay, turning this off. And now is my time to pray, whatever you want to do. I'm going to pray, but yeah, thank you. I'm gonna do that right now.
Well, good. And this is a perfect time to do it as we wrap up, and nobody's expecting you at home for a little bit yet.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that before we leave. And I'm gonna set, my alarm is gonna go off at 9:15. That's gonna be my time. Yay. Well, what a great podcast. And you know what? We kind of were like, hey, let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. I was like, let's just chat, because we have good chats and you guys don't always get to hear them. Yes. So today you got to hear it, and you got to hear about some cool new patients. I can't wait to keep you updated with a few of these guys, and I'm excited to hear some updates about how your new patients are going too.
I need one update from you. How are you doing with the boron?
What boron? I don't have it. I didn't buy it yet because I'm afraid.
All right, we'll get it. Break down. Don't
Tell me
buy it for you.
Well, I mean, I like when you buy me stuff, but what should I buy again?
Get a pharmaceutical grade boron so that you're not.
Okay, I'll order it tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do it because I want Jason to start taking it too.
Yes.
So thanks for asking, and yes, I will get it.
See, we even keep ourselves accountable on the call here.
And y'all do too, so.
All right.
Okay.
So now that we've got that taken care of, where are they going to find you?
You can find me at Precision Chiropractic, STL.com. I'm on the west side of St. Louis. You can find me on TikTok at Dr. Beth Bagley, or you can find me on Instagram and Facebook too. And
I'm at Keystone Chiro SPI, Keystone Chiropractic in Springfield, Illinois. I think that's the Keystone Doc on Instagram. Send me funny stuff if you find me on there. Any case, folks, thanks for joining us for another episode of The Blonde and the Bald. We'll be back next week with our 50th episode.
50.
Bye.
That's all for today's episode of The Blonde and the Bald. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you enjoyed today's show with Drs. Bagley and Scherger, remember, don't give up and just live with the pain. Come back next week and get more answers and solutions. Visit our websites at KeystoneChiroSPI.com and PrecisionChiropracticSTL.com for more info, and catch all the episodes of The Blonde and the Bald.